Because J.K. Rowling has a surprise for us that has made us gone cuckoo, this is MuggleCast episode 267 for July 14th, 2013. Welcome to MuggleCast episode 267. This is a special episode. Don't worry, this isn't going to count towards the final two. We decided that we would record a special episode because J.K. Rowling shocked the world on Saturday afternoon when she revealed,
Hey, Aunt Marge is gay.
Yes, finally! I've waited for so long. My Pottermore hopes
on the announcement.
My Pottermore hopes and dreams have come true, and we're here to analyze what it could mean for the future of Aunt Marge. No, J.K. Rowling revealed a new book, The Cuckoo's Calling, but even more shocking, it's been available in bookstores since late April. She released it under a pseudonym, Robert Galbraith. Take that, everyone who doubted my pronunciation. On Hypable, the people were already, they were like, I can't wait to see how Andrew pronounces it. I'm like, excuse me.
I think it's Galbraith or something. Galbraith? Something
maybe
Irish.
I would say Galbraith. Or Galbraith.
Galbraith?
I would not say any of the hi and the who and the...
No, I don't know where that's coming from.
Well, since this person doesn't exist, neither does a proper pronunciation, so everybody can say how they want.
Nice. That was very well
done. So there's a lot to talk about. Everybody's very excited. It's been an exciting 24 hours as we all kind of learn tidbits about this book. How about let's talk about initial reactions first. Micah, you had one of my favorite tweets yesterday.
Yes.
What went through your mind? Did you believe it at first?
Did I believe it?
To believe that she actually released a book 2.5 months ago, we didn't even know it.
Sure. Why not? I think the reaction you were referring to is that I said, I don't follow J.K. Rowling on Twitter, yet I still have found out that she released a new book. And,
I don't follow her either. Isn't that terrible?
Yes. Selena. See,
I know.
There's two hosts for you, but I was just, it's pleasantly surprising that she did this, and the book has been out, as you said, since April, and nobody really caught on to it until, I guess, this writer at the Sunday Times decided to do a little bit of digging. But what surprises me, and I don't really know the track record for this, but she decided to use this pseudonym, which is a male, as opposed to doing it as a female. And I just wondered the reasoning behind that. I mean, normally I would think that your pseudonym would be specific to your gender, but I guess it doesn't have to be.
I would think it would
it's hardly ever is, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah, I would think that it would be intentionally misleading.
And some people are laughing because she's already gone by a male name before, J.K. Rowling.
Right.
And now she's doing it again.
Right. Which is, because J.K. is the more masculine version. Could be either way.
Eric and Selena, were either of you shocked? Like, I was shocked.
Yeah. I mean, at first I didn't believe it, and there were people on Twitter I was following. Basically, like, it was during my job. I was out at work when I first saw the first tweets, and I read Hypable's article, because you had that up lightning speed. And at first I wasn't sure if it was true or because who can say, right? If it's really, really true. I don't know if the statement from Joe was there yet. But at first we were just thinking, what if this is a really good marketing campaign by Robert Galbraith and his people who are, getting this out there. It felt like it needed more, traction. But like within 15 minutes, it had that traction. Everybody was saying, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
And it was just so absurd that she would do this, but at the same time, so
Joe.
It made sense
Joe,
when we later got the statement from her. It made it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it was rewarding to be able to actually I diverted myself. I drove a mile out of my way just to a Barnes & Noble. Actually, I didn't drive out of my way. It was at the opposite end of the parking lot I was in. And went to Barnes & Noble and picked up 2 copies.
It's a very far drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
How hard
it's a pretty big parking lot in Skokie. But anyway, I drove right across the street to Barnes & Noble and got, 2 copies. They were already in stores.
Why did you get 2?
One for my girlfriend.
Okay.
But this is the greatest thing of all about this reveal is that the book, that we didn't have to wait for it.
Right.
Instant gratification, especially to ebook readers. Ebook reader owners.
Yeah.
Or everybody with the apps. It's available right now.
Yeah. Which is so exciting. When I first found out about it when somebody just replied the Hypeable Twitter with just a link, no text, just a link, and I saw it was the Telegraph, and I was like, this is interesting.
Usually that's spam. Usually that's like to grow your,
Right, but it was going to the Telegraph, so I clicked it, and the statement was there from the beginning, because, as we'll get into in a minute, the Sunday Times had reached out to J.K. Rowling's people, and she decided to issue a statement. So after I wrote up the article and did a couple things, of course everybody was really excited. I booked it to my local Barnes & Noble, but I couldn't find it. And I even went up to somebody at the desk and I said, help me find it. They were like, yeah, we got 4 copies in stock. It says we have 4 copies here. So they helped me look and just could not be found. And he just turned to me at one point. It was just like, yeah, I guess we have 4 copies that are lost. I'm like, okay, great. Bye.
Wow.
So I was
or
bummed.
4 copies that sold before you got there.
Well, yeah, that's what I was also thinking, but I don't think their computers would reflect that they were in. Anyway, luckily, my friends John and Bree, John, who you may know from Leaky, he is closer to a Barnes & Noble down near Santa Monica. So they also booked it over to the bookstore and purchased all 4 available copies.
Like hoarding J.K. Rowling books is crazy.
I know. Well,
You know what I'm thinking, Andrew?
What?
I'm thinking that clerk that you went to put those in reserve for himself and kept them in the back room.
Maybe.
And like sold them for $100.
I have a story about this guy. So my Barnes & Noble that I went to, the one in Skokie, there were 4 in inventory.
See?
Which is weird. I'm sensing a recurring thing here.
Yeah.
Basically, by the time I got there, it was maybe 45 minutes after the news broke. And I asked the woman, I asked her, hey, so Cuckoo's calling new, crime thriller. She's like, okay, it's right over here. She led me right to it. And that was because she had just put it on hold for somebody who called in.
Oh.
So she put 1 copy on hold, so she knew exactly where it was, but didn't necessarily know anything further, right? So she led me right to it, and she picked it up off the shelf and gave it to me, and I was like, okay, that the word on the street is that this is the new J.K. Rowling book, and her eyes went really wide, and she's like, really? And I'm like, yes. I didn't say, oh yeah, I've heard this. I just said, the internet says this is what happened, so so I was like, so I'll take 2, because I knew, because my girlfriend didn't have any luck, down in the city Barnes & Noble, which is also a university bookstore. So they weren't as well stocked. But, I grabbed 2, meaning there was 1 left on the shelf. And I started walking the other way after I said, okay, I'll take 2. I grabbed them and I was walking to the cashier. And the woman said, well, maybe I'll take this last copy and put it on hold for myself.
Yeah, I would have.
Don't you think that's so interesting though, and kind of nice that even now, like so many years after Harry Potter and after The Casual Vacancy, which was a lukewarm success at best, like you hear new J.K. Rowling book, everybody books it to the bookstore, no pun intended.
Right.
Everybody.
And
it's like, you guys are hoarding the books. That's the thing. It's like you have to have this because it's J.K. Rowling's book, And
like Eric pointed out, the thrill yesterday was that it was immediately available. So it was like a little treasure hunt going. That's how it felt to me. Like, I wanted to so bad just go up to it and actually see it sitting there on the shelf. I was bummed that I didn't get that experience like Eric and other people did.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know about you, Andrew, but whenever I heard this, I wasn't surprised at all that she would have released this under pseudonym because we've sort of been speculating this for a while, but I was a little bit disappointed because this probably means she didn't write Queen of the Tearling.
Right, we spoke about Queen.
I like that theory.
Yeah, we spoke about that on one of the more recent episodes of MuggleCast to end over on Hype. And you know what? I've done some further digging about that, looking up who owns the domain name, and it looks to be an actual person. So
yeah, but it's just because
I know.
I think it's also just because I kind of feel like for me, I was hoping, and I didn't think she would, but I was sort of hoping against hope that she would write another fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But she may still.
This is all this is all adding up though now, because I mean, it's been 6 years now since Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and it's like, what the heck has she been doing?
Yeah. I mean, she got a Twitter. It's got 2.5 million followers. She doesn't use
tweets.
It. Yeah. She doesn't use it. It's the weirdest thing. It's like she's there, but she's not. This past 6 years, she's been there, but she's not. And this is another fruit of that labor that we didn't know existed.
Yeah. I remember specifically, though, I think I found out once there was enough evidence to support the fact that it was true. So it wasn't one of those things where I was waiting to see, was it actually legitimate that she had put this book out? But I have not gone out and got the book yet. I'm still waiting. I might try tomorrow at work on lunch hour to go to the Barnes & Noble a couple blocks away and see if it's available.
You're probably too late.
Yeah.
I'm probably am at this point.
Like I did.
You're in a pretty dense...
I don't like ebooks.
Ebooks.
Yeah, I don't either.
I like the actual book itself, and that might be weird, but so be it.
You know what? I have switched to only ebooks, but the fact that it's a J.K. Rowling book, I want to have a physical copy.
Right.
It's just
I
nice.
got so scarred by Casual Vacancy. I mean, she sort of...
Yeah.
It tainted it forever. Like, I'm looking right now at my massive cover of the Casual Vacancy, which cost me like 300, she's 30 pounds. It wasn't that expensive. It's golden. But, I mean, and I'm just thinking, you know what? Like, that was a waste of money.
I'm staring at the other end of my room where my bookshelf is, and there's Casual Vacancy, sure enough. It's the one signed by JKR. Right next to it's the one that's not signed by JKR that I paid $30 for, and I haven't finished it. They're just both over there, and they're bookends on my bookshelf. So, it is a cautionary lesson here, where just because on name alone, and this is the weirdest thing about what happened yesterday. Maybe that'd be a good title for this episode, What Happened Yesterday. But it's the weirdest thing because no matter how or where we were or what we were doing, like I was in the middle of an 11-hour workday, okay? The last thing on my mind was J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. But when I started seeing those tweets coming in about a new J.K. Rowling book, and once it was like, oh my God, this is happening, and it set in, me and everybody else started tweeting, on our way, gotta do this, tweeting photos, book in hand photos. Yeah. People were like, I'm in the middle of a monsoon. I'm getting the Harry Potter book. So
yeah, here's your tagline for the show. I mean, the fandom, everyone saw that J.K. Rowling had a new book out. They all went cuckoo.
Cuckoo for cuckoo.
Exactly.
For Cocoa Puffs.
It's just the weirdest. I wanted to tweet, but I didn't want to get shat on by people. Like, are we suddenly forgetting the Casual Vacancy here, people?
That's my question. Because
Name alone, because it's been months and I still have no interest to pick that book up. I read half of it. I read exactly half of it and stopped and never picked it up again. And are we just forgetting? Are we just like, okay, we're going to go get the new JK? It's such loyalty to Joe, but at the same time, there's absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that we're going to like it. It's again, a different genre than what we're used to.
A question of the fact that, we had Casual Vacancy. Some people loved it, but some people didn't. But at the end of the day, I think the fandom, the Harry Potter fandom as a whole, are still J.K. Rowling fans. Like, they're fans of the franchise that is J.K. Rowling. And the question is just, this is going to be the book that I think decides if people generally love this book. Yeah, they're going to pick up whatever she writes next. But if this kind of turns up being another Casual Vacancy, I don't think that people are going to rush out to stores next time she does something.
It's weird because initial plot summaries, everything that I've read so far about the book makes it seem like Cuckoo's Calling is going to be a really fun, crime drama novel. And I wonder why she didn't choose that one for her next book and publish Casual Vacancy under a pseudonym.
Yeah,
not that the lesser book has to, I'm not trying to somehow shovel it.
Not that it wasn't
casual.
A good book, Like,
it's obviously very personal for Joe, and it was a hell of an undertaking to do it. And it portrays a dark corner of humanity that is uncomfortable. Maybe it was important or good that book be under her name, but it's just so weird because my hopes are way up for this book because it seems to be, again, it's a little political, but it's mostly about a detective, and those novels are always so much fun to read, always.
The other thing I like about the Cuckoo's Calling, it why I wanted a physical copy is because it's summertime. I mean, the last time we got a new book during the summer from J.K. Rowling was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and the Harry Potter book releases were always traditionally summer releases, so it kind of harkens back to those Harry Potter release days.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, Micah, you posted in a Skype chat earlier that today is the 6 years since episode 99 in Enlightening in 2007 in Philadelphia, which is the episode before we all got the 7th book. Is 6 years ago today.
Well,
so from when we're recording this.
Not just that, but today's tomorrow is the 2-year anniversary of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 hitting theaters.
This is the Harry Potter month. This
Right.
is, and his birthday's in 16 days or whatever. So you're right. It feels right that it was revealed now. Although I did want to talk about the fact that it's only been 2 months. So the secret came out still quite quickly, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we can get into that now. So the New York Times spoke to the Sunday Times, who initially uncovered the Cuckoo's Calling, connecting it to J.K. Rowling. What happened was one of the Sunday Times' writers had read the Cuckoo's Calling recently and tweeted that she liked the book. And shortly after that, an anonymous person replied to her on Twitter and told her that it was J.K. Rowling who was the real author.
Unbelievable.
So then the editor replied to the Twitter user asking, "How do you know for sure?" And the anonymous person said, "I just know." Then that anonymous person deleted the tweets and deleted his or her Twitter account. So from there, that made the Sunday Times start to dig. They connected the dots between the publisher and the editor of The Casual Vacancy and The Cuckoo's Calling. They're both Little Brown, and it's also the same actual editor, the same person. And that set off a red flag, because it was like, why is this person who edited The Casual Vacancy for J.K. Rowling also editing something as irrelevant as a new coming author, a new author? It's just that part didn't really add up.
Right.
And then they sent the 2 books plus Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows into linguistic computers, and they found, quote, significant similarities between the 3.
These linguistic computers sound really cool.
Yeah.
They're basically what our 8th grade science teachers threatened us with if we were to plagiarize our science fair experiment. They're like, "We can tell you're writing. There are databases for this."
Right. So
I'm all over.
So then they had all this evidence, and they decided to email Rowling's publicist this past Friday night. Their email was, it was a very simple statement. It was, "I believe that Robert Galbraith is in fact J.K. Rowling, and will you please come back with a straightforward answer?"
I love that.
So you have to say that in a British accent, though, because
will you please come back with a straightforward answer?
There you go. It just sounds more authentic that way.
And then Saturday morning, J.K. Rowling's publicist replied, "Yes, it is her." And then they got that statement from Rowling, and then that was it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So weird. Such a weird, sequence of events. And, who was the person that originally tweeted it? That's what I want to know.
Well, okay, so here's
Ian Rankin being bitter.
Well, here's the question. Was this anonymous person on Twitter actually somebody from Little Brown, and Little Brown decided that now they want to let everybody learn about the book?
I can just imagine a 4 a.m. phone call to J.K. Rowling where she picks it up. She's like, "Hello," wiping the sleep from her eyes, and they're like, "Phase 2, Miss Rowling is ready to begin." She's like, "Okay, proceed." And then they send that tweet back to that Sunday Times person.
Yeah.
You think it's a planned event?
Well, I mean,
Operation Cuckoo.
They wanted to sell them eventually. They wanted to let everybody know, because, Little Brown is a business. They want book sales. And everybody knows book sales have been struggling. So I think it had to come out at some point. As J.K. Rowling said in her statement, she was hoping it wouldn't be this soon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how soon she was planning.
Right.
But interestingly, in the New York Times report, they say that the second print run of the book, which is now underway, will carry a revised author biography, which reads, "Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling."
So it was planned.
The people who if it wasn't planned, they're certainly running like heck to look. It had to be planned to some extent, because at the end of the day,
a backup plan.
It is J.K. Rowling. There has to be a button they push when it hits the fan that allows them to print so many more copies, because essentially the book now is out of print. You know, those of us who got the first print run that doesn't reveal it to be J.K. Rowling, our books are slightly more special, actually.
No, you're absolutely right. And actually, these books could be of value, these original ones without J.K. Rowling. Now, in the author bio, on the inside flap and at the very end of the book, both of them ends with Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym, and that's it. So presumably it will be those two areas that are updated with is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling.
Interesting that she did come forward about that, where it's like almost as if there was some kind of duty to report that it wasn't a real name or a real entity.
Maybe they have to. Maybe that is actually a rule, some kind of etiquette, publishing etiquette. But you know what I love, though, about this whole thing? Like, that even before, and we posted about this in Hypable too, even before it was revealed to be J.K. Rowling, people were actually given this book really good reviews.
Yeah.
People actually responded really, really positively to this. And that's, again, with Casual Vacancy, we had this huge expectations that probably, it wasn't a book we might have necessarily picked up, but the people that would have picked up this type of book, regardless of the author, would probably have liked it for the type of book it was. So this book, which is a crime drama, people that pick up this kind of book really, really like it. And I love that. I think that's great.
One of the best reviews, it was sitting at the bottom, but now it's been the most liked review. It says, "This book is so well written that I suspect that some years down the road we will hear the author's name as a pseudonym of some famous writer. Lots of description made one feel like another occupant in the scene. You could feel the weather, the tension, the pain, the atmosphere in the gatherings. The Audible version has great accents. It is a wonderful mystery with a surprise ending, and I look forward to more by the same author."
Oh, so there is an audiobook.
Yeah, it's already available. This was like a full-blown release.
This is the thing. They already have a Kindle version. This is why we almost should have known, right? Or is it that every new publisher should do this, where they have an ebook available? All these were in place. Even though this book was a secret, there were 4 copies in every Barnes & Noble, even though it was a first-time
Specifically
author.
4. 4 is now the magical number in this series.
I'm saying
there's no way you could have known, though. That's the thing. There's tweets, there's other information out there where people say they passed on this book, from an editor standpoint, right?
Yeah, now I don't understand that part though, because J.K. Rowling's tied in with Little Brown though. So was she just submitting it elsewhere for fun, just to see what people would think?
Do you want to hear my theory on this?
Yes, please.
No.
Okay then.
I'm just joking.
The reason I know the reason that she probably submitted because the people that spoke out about this was a publisher at Orion Publishing, and who knows if she submitted it to more publishing houses. But my theory is that she probably didn't want to publish with Little Brown necessarily, because that would make it easier to tie her back to it. And of course, if she did have some kind of agreement, if it was going to be revealed eventually, then yeah, you're probably right that she was just trying to see what other people would think of it. But my immediate thought would be, as Robert Galbraith.
Oh God, just say Galbraith. Can you say Galbraith?
Galbraith. I can't say it like you guys.
Galbraith.
He's from Texas.
Yes. But she wanted to separate herself from the J.K. Rowling that published the Casual Vacancy with Little Brown. She wanted to be Robert Galbraith that published with someone else.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, that she got turned down because crime novels aren't in style right now.
I wanted to touch on what you said before, though, because I thought that it was kind of interesting. Casual Vacancy was the first book that J.K. Rowling put out post Harry Potter, and you talked a little bit about the expectations. I feel like with this book, those expectations, they're somewhat removed, and she comments herself, the publishing under a pseudonym has allowed her a little bit more freedom. It's more relaxing to go about it in this way. But I think from a reader standpoint, from somebody who's been a fan of hers, it's different, and it seems more along the same kind of style of book that Potter was, not necessarily from a genre standpoint, but from a writing standpoint, possibly. That's why they were able to find those symmetries when they sent it off to those special machines that did their work. And I don't think that you necessarily have that if you did it with the Casual Vacancy. I feel like Casual Vacancy is a beast all on its own, that it was just done because she felt this sort of deep-seated desire to write something that was very personal to her.
You know what? That's a good
you're
point.
Right.
That's why I'm so excited about this book, is because Harry Potter had a lot of mystery in it. And this is a mystery crime novel. So I think this plays into her strengths that she already has a lot of experience with, thanks to Harry Potter.
Agreed.
Worth noting, by the way, I just checked out the Amazon page again. Amazon now lists it as temporarily out of stock. This is after it slipped from immediate availability to 2 to 3 days. This morning it was saying, Amazon was saying 10 to 14 days. So now it must be beyond that, to the point where Amazon's just saying, well, we'll ship it to you whenever the heck we get it.
I mean, I really hope this lives up to people's expectations. I mean, I can't say anything because I've only read the first 3 pages. But I mean,
damn, they were good 3 pages.
To be honest with you, I mean, I don't want to judge anything. I haven't read it, but the first 3 pages felt more Casual Vacancy to me because, I mean, the thing about Harry Potter, way to be controversial here, I know, but the thing I loved about Harry Potter, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, it's the magic. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, that's what I'm watching this with sort of a mixture of pride that the fan base is so quick to jump on this, and sort of a worry, because look at someone like Philip Pullman. Like, I love Philip Pullman's, his Dark Materials, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna love, like, his Brother Jesus and the Good Man Christ, or whatever that book is called that I actually did read. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. You can love a series.
Good you forgot the title.
I know, right? The Cuckoo's Vacancy. What? No.
No, I agree with you.
I don't know.
I like crime novels. I've read a couple, not many, admittedly, but I've read other crime mystery novels, and I do enjoy them. So that's why I feel like I can actually look forward to this. If this was another political book, I probably would not be excited for this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it, political thrillers that I read all the time. I have a lot of time going in and out of the city on the train. Authors like Nelson DeMille or David Baldacci or Ted Bell. And I think that this could be in line with that, maybe not to the extent of a political thriller, but you'd have that there's always mystery that's sort of intertwined in political thrillers or legal thrillers. And I think that, Andrew, you brought up a great point before, saying there is a lot of mystery in the Harry Potter series, and there is a lot of detective work I think that you have to do as a reader. Hell, how many episodes did we spend theorizing about what could potentially happen in Deathly Hallows, and putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So I look forward to reading this. I wasn't completely 100% down on Casual Vacancy. I didn't think that it was a bad book. I think it was different, and we all knew that going in. But I hope that we return to some of that magic that we had in Harry Potter.
Yeah, and the magic wasn't just literal magic. Like, the part of the magic, it was the storytelling, it was the relationships between the characters, it was, as you say, the mysteries. But I think, I mean, for me personally, I'm sure a lot of listeners will agree with that. I don't read mystery novels. That's not my genre. So this is kind of a stretch. It's not that I don't really like novels about the real world or anything, but
nobody's saying that but you. Nobody.
But I'm reading this description. I'm thinking, this kind of, if I was going to reference thing that I have watched or read, it would be something like Sherlock. Like Sherlock, modern day Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. And I'm thinking, well, that's nice, but that's not exactly me. So I'm interested to see if the fact that it's written by J.K. Rowling, an author who I absolutely fell in love with, if that's going to be enough to draw me into a genre that I wouldn't go for normally.
It should be. It absolutely should be.
But I think the last time.
Well, yeah. Well, what it comes down to is J.K. Rowling's, I think, great talent for comedy, in some of the places you least expect to. And this book just has to be funnier than Casual Vacancy. I think for it to click with people, it has to leave a warm feeling while they're reading it. It has to inspire as well as
have good friendships and have good stuff like
friendship.
that.
Yeah, anything like that, I think would immediately place it above Casual Vacancy for me. It just has to be set in a nicer world. I think Casual Vacancy was too harsh for me. But I do feel like a terrible reader. Getting back to just the reviews, the fact that there were only 75 reviews or so on Amazon. It only sold 1,500 copies first in the first 3 months until this was announced. 1,500 copies, and that's it. The fact that it was gaining some traction on it, so it's a little bit of reviews. All the people who read it gave favorable reviews to it. I think Andrew, you wrote on Hypeable that certain people said that it was featured, in their book club or on on book
like
lists.
summer reading suggestions.
Yeah. So the people who were reading it liked it, but on the whole, like, that's definitely not me. I feel terrible seeing this, but I wouldn't have just picked this up because it's a new mystery thriller.
Don't feel terrible for that. I mean, we all have our genres that we like, and
No, but I don't pick any book up.
book.
This is what I'm getting into.
Oh.
I don't pick any book up unless I know it's by somebody that, like, I'm so shallow that way. I won't try out a new author. I won't try out new things. I really wish I had picked up this book and read it 2 months ago. I wish I were one of those people who just off the hand didn't know it and had read it, because I think they like, that's also very cool.
It is. Yeah.
It's like the bonus surprise. Oh my God, it was J.K. Rowling all along.
I liked it before it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always that small bit of any fandom who liked it before they were cool, and I missed the boat with Potter. So I guess I'm trying to, now that I've psychoanalyzed myself, I'm trying to get into that crowd.
So in the UK, it has sold 1,500 copies so far. Obviously very low considering it's been out for 2.5 months. We don't have a US number yet. Sales since over the past 24 hours have spiked 507,000%, and it is currently number 1 on Amazon US and UK. Wait times, like I just mentioned a moment ago, are now, Amazon's not even telling you. They're just like, well, you'll get it soon. You can order it. They're just not giving you any expected delivery time because they don't know.
You can still buy it on Amazon UK. Should I get it?
Yeah, why not?
You might want to buy it.
I mean,
copy.
And then of course ebooks. The ebook version is available now, and if you call around the bookstores, you can find it. It'll be interesting to see these people. Let's say you order it today, Selena. I wonder if you will get a copy that has J.K. Rowling's name in it.
Right from the
but
new
I don't
print
want
run.
that. I only want it if it's the old original one.
Well, that's
otherwise I don't want to pay.
You got to go to
J.K.
J.K.
Rowling.
Rowling. You got to
Robert
leave
Galbraith is what it's about.
Yeah, I know.
You should order. Yeah, you should order it. And I'm tempted to buy a couple more copies without J.K. Rowling being mentioned.
Well, it's already been unfortunately, like, it's probably already in its second run already.
Right.
I mean, meaning the copy we have, because it's been out for 3 months. So it's very unlikely that any of us have first editions in the true sense of first edition words.
I'm looking on Barnes & Noble's website, and it's also temporarily out of stock there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But can we play with the math here for a moment, Andrew? Because 507,000% increase in sales. What does that even mean?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Selling?
That's a good question.
For something to sell twice as many, it's 200%. So like 200%. So you have to divide by like 100. So 507,000% means 5,070 times what they were selling for the first time. So if you take 1,500 and which is the copies they sold initially, and multiply that by 5,070, it means they sold 7.5 million books in the first day.
See, that's not adding up though, because the Casual Vacancy didn't sell that many books, right?
Didn't it? I thought there were like 40 million pre-orders or something.
Were there?
No, that number seems high now that I say it. But 7 million in a day is pretty. That seems about right, wouldn't it?
I disagree. I don't think it can be that high. There's no way because first of all, it's a weekend. Like, I mean, I know this news is getting around, but it's gotten around to 7 million people compelled.
I mean, how many people are in the U.S.
around
alone?
the
This
world,
is worldwide
though?
news.
Yeah, and look, remember how many people went out and like hoarded it at stores? You were just talking about that. Everyone's been buying 2 or 3 copies.
I mean, but that's
I
just
think it's
everybody
possible.
we know in our little corner of the fan.
True,
Yeah, But still, I mean, I think it may be reflected. Look, 507,000%. That's a number that's in print on the internet right now. Like,
Does this include ebooks?
It must, I would think,
must.
right? Because they certainly didn't do a 7 million copy print run.
No.
You're right.
It says on Amazon.com, sales soared more than 507,000%.
Okay.
So it's specific to Amazon.com. That's not even looking at bookstores or
right.
other places throughout the world at this point. But
it's really, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just had a question about the. It kind of ties into all of this. The information was released on a Saturday, and it was what, maybe late afternoon, early evening here on the East Coast, and that means it was just approaching midnight in the UK. So I'm just trying to figure out the rationale behind this. Was it that the Sunday Times writer said, "Hey, I'm running with this story, and it's going to break, in the UK after midnight. So if you're going to say something, let's get it out there." It just seems like a weird time to me on a Saturday evening here in the United States for this information to come out, because as you see, bookstores and other online retailers had no time to prepare for this at all.
Right. Well, yeah, I think they wanted to be first on it, but also this was probably printed in the Sunday Times' Sunday issue, and I know that newspapers will publish articles at midnight online.
Online, right?
Yeah, that will be available on the following day in print.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have a lot to talk about. J.K. Rowling's statement. She said, "I had hoped to keep this secret a little longer because being Robert Galbraith has been such a liberating experience. It has been wonderful to publish without hype or expectation, and pure pleasure to get feedback under a different name. And to those who have asked for a sequel, Robert fully intends to keep writing the series, although he will probably continue to turn down personal appearances." So that's the other thing about
so we
this.
won't see her dress up in a hat and beard.
Well, you
Like
know,
Snape.
what did she say ages ago when she said she was wearing a mustache?
What?
Like, didn't she say she was going around, towards the end of the Harry Potter book, she was going around with a mustache and top
to
hat?
avoid the press.
Yeah.
She was Robert already,
Yeah.
getting into
So
it.
here's the interesting thing. This is going to be a series. I mean,
Yes.
that's really significant because this is, of course, her first post-Potter series. And, I mean, it's kind of too early to say if this is good or bad news because we personally don't know how good this book is. But, I mean, potentially, this could be a huge new series.
Yes.
Do you think there would be a fandom for it in the same way?
Yeah.
Could
Sorry,
there be?
maybe.
I mean,
Say that again?
Huh?
Say that again?
I just said, I mean, do you think there could be a fandom for this kind of series in the same way? Because, I mean, I'm just looking at something like Harry Potter, and the kind of fandom that surrounded that were all sort of mainly teenagers and in that kind of school situation, you know what I mean? Like, these are older characters. They might be harder to relate to.
Well, fortunately, I had some college prep on the mystery genre. Like, we read Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep, and that's pretty much the hard-boiled detective novel of the last century. And basically, like, I can see people getting more into mystery because of J.K. Rowling. Like, people from our fandom, the Harry Potter fans, getting into this book, and then maybe in between books also finding other series that is in this genre. I think for me, the coolest thing is that J.K. Rowling found something like an idea that she likes enough to develop into and to be comfortable to say that it's going to be a series. But I can definitely see fans coming over, or, it really brings up that question again. Are we the Harry Potter fandom or are we the J.K. Rowling fandom?
Exactly. I mean, that's the big question. We were just talking about that before the show too, like how there comes a point when you have to make that decision, I think, for yourself.
Like, do you just like her magical work set in the magical world?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you like everything she writes? Do you like her voice, or is it specific books? Like, what is it? So I do think depending on how her book is and how people respond to it, I could easily see this gaining a following, from ex-Harry Potter fans or former Harry Potter, also Harry Potter fans, but then also a mystery community as well, who's got either the interest that was there from the beginning, the few people who read it before it, became big, and also just from regular mystery enthusiasts who now say, like, it's like reading the next big novel from an established author who's clearly good at writing. I think it'll get renewed attention, not just from Harry Potter fans, but from mystery fans.
So the next book is supposed to come out next summer, which is kind of cool. Now, but this raises a question.
All right.
What does this mean for J.K. Rowling in the future if she's writing these books, the Camoran Strike series?
I know. When is that lexicon coming?
Well, I think that's pretty much complete, if you ask me.
Loud.
I think that's ready to go.
We're ever gonna get it. We talked about this before.
The cool thing to keep in mind is that she wrote 4 books in 4 years. The first 4 Harry Potter books. And now there were years and years of planning. Of course. We have to acknowledge that. But from 1997 to 2000, she wrote the first 4 Harry Potter books. And that's 4 separate books. She's had 6 years now since book 7 ended up. She could easily, or it's foreseeable that there are plenty more things out there that she's been working on, in addition to being the wife and mother that she always wanted to be, which she said, she's also enjoying. So I just think there's so much opportunity because we know the speed that she can write and we know how much time has elapsed. There's a lot more that could be out there, including all the stuff we're hoping to find out on Pottermore, including a lexicon. It's just a matter of them planning it, putting it in the pipeline for development and delivery, and then releasing it to us.
I don't know. This is really interesting to me. I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Why continue to write as Robert?
I know.
Well,
it doesn't, at this point, I mean, what was her timeline for waiting to make this reveal? Was she never going to make the reveal? So I'm just wondering, okay, the UK, it sold 1,500 copies. The US, as you mentioned, we don't know the numbers yet, but how could she even know that she was going to write a series if the first book, I mean, selling 1,500 copies is not successful? So she was banking on this reveal at some point.
No.
Because
she said herself that the book, this is sooner than she hoped. So she was planning on at some point.
I think so.
For her, I mean, it probably wouldn't make that big of a difference because, she has enough money for like 30 lifetimes.
At this point, you're writing for yourself. At this point, you're writing for yourself. And I think there was definitely, there's something brilliant about writing under a pseudonym and watching the book gain a life of its own because it's the only one true unbiased way to do anything. Right? Isn't it? So the fact that she had 2 months to gather that info to read the reviews, as she stated in her statement, is cool. It's true. It's only 2 months. So it would have been interesting if it had been 6 months or a year since, like maybe a full year when the second book is about to come out, when she sees the maximum, like say that's when it reached its maximum popularity, or if it plateaus, to have been able to see the book naturally plateau. Maybe it goes from book club, word of mouth, but it's only been 2 months. So I'm glad that at least in her statement, she says that it was nice to hear the reviews. Of course, though, she also says that it was too soon,
that's where I wonder from her perspective is what is more telling? Is it the reviews that you receive or is it the sales of the book?
I would say the reviews for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But,
because that's the whole thing. She probably wants to be, J.K. Rowling wants to be known for, or acknowledged for something other than Harry Potter. So it must be very liberating for her just that she is being recognized for this non-Harry Potter, non-magical book, not because of her name. That must be the best thing for her.
Yeah. I can't even imagine how rewarding that is.
The word she used was liberating, and she said it's been pure pleasure to get feedback under a different name. So it's almost like she had to do it, in a way, like for herself. Now she knows. I think she will continue writing under I mean,
well, that's what she said.
Probably just some
Just that
uses are, I
series.
mean, no,
there has to be a precedent for it. Like I'm thinking Stephen King, Richard Bachman. Like I wonder if he wrote any books after being outed. I have to go back to that, except for Blaze, which came later. But I think like ultimately for her, she's created this persona. And I actually wanted to bring this up. I wasn't sure if it would fit in the doc, but hey, now I'm making the connection. Is it wrong or is it somehow suspect for her to have created this identity, which is shown in, I think it's in the book flap, that says, Robert Galbraith is an ex, vet who was stationed in the army and this, or in the non-military police. Anyway, and the whole story is based on
something that she's not, basically.
His or she experiences. Yeah. Like this is, it was like an in-depth bio for a fake person. So how is that in any way, like, will that remain in the new copy of the book? And is it wrong to pose as a vet or how does that gain your sympathy or not? Because we know she didn't serve in the war. So what does it really mean?
That's a good point. That's a good distinction. But I think just in terms of her creating a pseudonym and creating a character under which to write for, that's a pretty standard practice for authors writing under pseudonyms. I mean, there's, and especially women, I mean, there's been a string of women throughout history that she's following in the footsteps of who are writing under male pseudonyms. Like, there's a Danish one, actually. I can't think of any English ones, though there are some, but Karen Blixen was the Danish. She wrote the, My African Farm. Is that the one? It's something like that. And she wrote under the pen name Isak Dinesen, who was like a completely separate person, a man. And she wrote under him for like years and years and years. And now she's just known under both names. So it's that kind of thing. And I think that, but in terms of her creating him as a vet of the army, that is particularly interesting.
Yeah. And somewhere the real Robert Galbraith is demanding his money once these sales start to spike. But I think we've probably had this discussion on an episode years ago, maybe, and we've talked about would J.K. Rowling ever write under a pseudonym, and I think, and it's not certainly my place to say one way or another what she should or shouldn't do, but it's just overall an interesting story to me because I feel like she already achieved this level of greatness through writing Harry Potter, and she made it, from being somebody who wasn't a known author by any respects. And, she wrote quite possibly one of the greatest series of all time in literature. And it's funny to me that she would feel the need to write under a pseudonym to see if it would be just as successful when she already went through that process, back in the late 90s.
Yeah. Well, I think it is, again, a thing of distancing herself from Harry and from that story, that type of story too. It's
so interesting, Selena, that you brought up too, that like, it may have been a leap for her to make since J.K. Rowling isn't her real name. Kay is her aunt, Kathleen. It may be easier for her to write under a fake name because she's already done it.
True.
So, I mean, but just getting back to this discussion of like what she could be writing next, like, are we going to get that children's book? She said while promoting the Casual Vacancy that
it's probably already come out, Andrew.
Yeah, maybe. Who is it?
Hunger Games.
Who's behind it? Let's find more pseudonym books. The Hunger Games. Could you imagine if J.K. Rowling was behind the Hunger Games?
I know, right?
I thought all pseudonyms had to work like Tom Marvolo Riddle, I am Lord Voldemort. I thought they had to contain all the letters.
Yeah,
and so
I almost put this into a word scrambler.
Yeah, word scramble to see if it would come up. Like, well, we don't know. I think the J, the K, and the W are missing from Robert Galbraith, which are all important parts of Rowling. The J, K, and W. But depends on what his middle name is, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
She should come
I
up
am
with
Lord J.K. Rowling.
Yeah,
we
should
need
come
to
up with a crazy middle name for Robert Galbraith.
By the way, though, a tip of the cap to Lord Voldemort on Twitter, who had a great tweet yesterday saying, "Oh, J.K. Rowling is writing under a pseudonym. How very Half-Blood Prince of her."
So we should do a best of Twitter kind of post, I think.
Yeah, there's been some good stuff. My friend Mason tweeted that Shailene Woodley has already signed on for the lead role in The Cuckoo is Calling. So we wanted to talk about potential TV movie, but I think it's too early because we haven't read that, so we'll hold that off until
We'll
another
hold that off
episode.
for a big review show, right?
Yeah. When do you guys plan on reading the book?
I'm 3 pages in, so I've got the
You
lead.
started.
I'm holding it in my hands. I plan to read some tonight.
Whenever I get a copy.
Poor Micah.
I got my copy. I may start tonight. I got the newsroom premiere tonight, which I'm looking forward to. But I'm excited to have a good summer book to read. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Can I ask, I don't know that we mentioned this, maybe you did at the top of the show, but how long is the book?
It is 454 pages. 55, excuse me.
455.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
God.
about to correct you.
Casual Vacancy is like 460, 480. They're the same size, like they're the same height and width and length or whatever. I don't know the exact dimensions, but they're very similar looking books in terms of physical size. Let's go to Twitter
It is the same
now.
publisher.
Yeah, but yeah.
This is nice. They'll look nice to each other on the shelf.
Yeah, you know
Next to
what?
each
I actually put them next to each other. They do look good.
Ah.
They also both kind of have that the handwriting for each title is kind of flippant. I don't know if that's a way to. It
Yeah.
looks like it's
Yeah, it's
handwritten,
like-
sort of. Both of them.
That's got to
Oh, should've
be.
known.
Yeah,
It's just a regular motif, I think, for new novels. You're right,
maybe.
though. Yeah.
So, Micah, why don't you tell us about some tweets that we got? You took to Twitter to ask people what?
I asked them what their thoughts were on the Cuckoo's Calling, spoiler free, of course. So I've actually pasted these tweets into our Google Doc, which really amazingly came together in about 5 minutes prior to our recording. If we have a
That was
time
amazing.
lapse, we need to post that video
That was
Yeah.
a beautiful thing.
of how this all came to be. So quite frankly, I don't know if there are any spoilers in here,
I doubt
but
it.
we're
No way.
about to find out. So the first tweet comes from Anne Pan.
I got this one.
Oh, wait.
Independent. She must be Danish.
Oh, there you go.
Independent.
Yeah, there you go.
Did I say that right?
You got it. No.
Yeah.
She's the distant niece of Robert Galbraith.
Robert Galbraith.
Galbraith. And
Thank you.
she says, excited to read it and see if it is as good as the reviews say, and if it engages me more than the Casual Vacancy did.
I hear you.
That's an
Lyndon-
important question because, I mean, if people get fed up with this book too, I mean, how many
That's
more
it.
books can J.K.
Right.
Rowling release before they're like just over it?
She's going to be forced to go back to
Before
Harry
people-
Potter.
Yeah, exactly.
Bob her. Yes.
Lyndon says, a funny, tricky thing for J.K. Rowling to do. This book of hers was a chance for her to stay in the shadows. Surprise.
Like a ninja.
Martin Lightning Bolt says, loving it ever since I read Chamber of Secrets in 2001. I've been telling myself Joe is a great mystery writer. They need to learn how to spell mystery, by the way. Love that Rob G filled that void. Oh,
Robbie G.
now he's Rob G.
Robbie G. I love it.
Robert G.
Savannah Amy says, I'm a few chapters in and really enjoying it. The characters are intriguing and the plot interesting. Can't wait to finish it. Torrance Klomoski, can't wait to read it. Bought my copy within minutes of the news, but haven't had a chance to open it. But the synopsis sounds good.
I'll stop you right there to let you know I went to the Barnes & Noble website and I reserved 2 more copies of the book because apparently they're in stock still. So I'm going to
Oh my god.
I have to get a confirmation though. I have to wait. So,
What are you gonna do with them?
well, you know, like I said earlier, I like this. I like how this is a very rare print without it mentioning J.K. Rowling. So
True.
potentially this is worth something.
true.
So I'm
You
going
can
to,
always do a giveaway.
yeah, exactly. I may do a giveaway.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
No, that
Micah.
makes sense.
Christina Bailey says, it's great, very similar to style to J.K. Rowling. If I didn't know better, I would have said she wrote it.
Ah.
Hi, best tweet ever.
Maddie J. Love Joe's decision, famous writer with no pressure, but only within herself to write what she wants at her own pace and time.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy says, loving it so far, about halfway through, good murder mystery novel. Selena?
Yes.
Oh,
Next name.
difficult name. I knew
Oh.
exactly what he was
Eh.
going.
Ailey? Redmond?
The B is silent?
Ale? I think the B is silent. Unless it's Albuhay.
Well,
I was gonna say
the
Ailey.
Twitter name is Albuhay.
Albuhay. Okay, then. Albuhay.
Well, they really respect Joe's decision to put it out there with no pressure to see what the response would be. Love the Casual Vacancy, so can't wait. So there's somebody who enjoyed Casual Vacancy. And finally, Jennifer Horrenda says, on page 26, very promising so far.
A little bit further than me.
The writing is stronger than in Potter, and I think I'll like it better than the Casual Vacancy.
Stronger than in Potter.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah, interesting.
No. I think it's fair. Only because every writer grows, right? So.
Yeah, that's true. I am glad to hear that it is that it is better than the Casual Vacancy so far. I mean, it's totally different.
We are getting that kind of response that we had after Casual Vacancy when everyone was sort of just tweeting like ...
Yeah, you know what? And it's it's a whole different subject matter. So
yeah, the furthest I've heard of anyone being so far is page 131, and that is my good friend Sarah Wilkes. I'll give a shout out just on Twitter. Tweeted me and was like, "I'm on 131. It's good." So that's the furthest I've seen. But you said 455 pages, wasn't it? So it's only a quarter of the way through. That's the furthest I've heard of anyone being. But we got a lot of tweets: 25 pages, 30 pages, 3 pages. Selena,
yeah, I mean, I see it as something that I'm looking forward to reading. Like, I'm going to take my time with the book. It's not one of those situations where we're running to record a podcast and we got to finish it in, 3 hours, or we're trying to race our friends to get to the finish and find out what happens to Harry in book 7. So
right.
I just see it as one of those things where hopefully the bookstore has it tomorrow. I'll probably order it online anyway, just to be safe. But I want to enjoy the book. I don't want to feel like I have to rush through to find out what happens at the end.
Yeah. I agree.
Now maybe we should give a shout. People were telling me yesterday in terms of methods of how to get it. It's unlike, they can't sell out of a digital copy, right? So you can do an ebook.
No.
Yes. And somebody was telling me about the Kindle and Nook apps for iPhone, so that are apparently free. So even if you don't have a Kindle or Nook, you can still order the book for like $13 and still read it. If you're accustomed to reading on your phone, there is a way where you can get the ebook, and that'll probably be not only your best money-saving option, but to guarantee that you get it, because it's digital. They're not going to run out.
And don't forget there's the audiobook, too.
Yeah, audible.com.
I'm definitely going to get the audiobook.
Use your free audiobook right there. Why not?
Yep.
You could.
Nothing better I could think of to use it for.
That's audiblepodcast.com/MuggleCast.
Funnily enough, I don't think we have an ad this episode, so joke's on you guys. Anyway,
sorry, I just brought up
in that
the
case,
let's
let's use Game of Thrones.
So there will be a lot more to talk about over the coming weeks, and I would say months, but since we have like 2 more months left, it's almost not worth saying. So we'll talk more about it in the coming weeks.
Way to bum everybody out at the end of the show.
Micah was going on about it. I was like, Micah, isn't it nice not to have a podcast to run home and read for? Jesus.
We'd love to hear everybody's reviews. So if you plan on reading the book within the next few weeks, after you finish, email us, mugglecast@gmail.com. That's our email address now, right, guys?
That's the best way to reach us by email.
Okay, mugglecast@gmail.com. We'll read some of your reviews. I think we're all going to try to read it in the next few weeks. And we probably won't have a review by the end of, by our next episode, which is scheduled for a week or 2 from now, but maybe for the final episode, we'll mention it on there. Go through some reviews. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you in just a couple weeks for episode 268. I'm Andrew Sims.
I'm Eric Skull.
I'm Micah Tannenbaum.
And I'm Selena Wilkin.
Goodbye.
Get cookin'.
Get Cuckoo.
Wow. How long did you take to think of that?
Get cookin'.
Half a second.